My ego at the time was inflated to the point where I didn't think that I wanted or needed help from any other human. I thought that I was in control of my life, and if I wasn't able to solve it by myself without outside help, including medication, then I'm a piece of shit.
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka. This is so strange to do on my own. I'm Christina, one of your co-hosts. The other co-host, Lauren, is in treatment right now, and so it's just me today, yet again. Well, actually, Ruby is here with me. She's frolicking around the home studio as we speak. I think she discovered catnip in the cat scratcher. That's on me. Sometimes when I'm cleaning, I find little bags of catnip, and just as a joke, I sprinkle them around on every cat scratcher I can find and wait till they discover them, and so all of a sudden they'll act insane out of the blue. I'm like, oh, they must have found another batch. Part of me wants to cut that out because y'all must be sick and tired of hearing about my cats on this show, but you know what? Cats and mental health are inexplicably intertwined. So who am I to ignore that? I don't want to not address it, you know what I mean? Okay, but staying on track, I have an amazing episode for y'all today. I interviewed my friend Andrew that I met in treatment in 2021. All I can say about his story is it's incredibly dopey, to steal a term from one of my favorite podcasts, which in this context means full of twists and turns and rock bottoms, followed by more rock bottoms and redemption and tragedy and hilarity. One of the things I love about Andrew is that he's willing to laugh at himself, as am I. It's the only thing I do on this fucking show. And so we laugh a lot, but he's also gone through a lot of really difficult shit since the last time we spoke. And I am just so grateful that he talked about it on this platform. And I couldn't think of a better interview to end this podcast's dry spell, I guess you could say. Speaking of which, I'm trying my best to keep this podcast going in Lauren's absence, and it's really fucking hard by myself. So one way that y'all can help, if you don't want to come on the podcast and talk to me, you know, that's an option, but I recognize that not everyone wants to do that. Send me a voicemail. I've gotten a few voicemails sent by lovely listeners that I'm sitting on and I'm going to release throughout the upcoming weeks and talk about them. That's the thing. If you can start a conversation, that's honestly the best gift you can give me right now, because sometimes when I'm by myself, it's hard to talk. I already feel kind of like I'm talking into a void. And so, I don't know, give me stuff to talk about. Anything you want. The ball is in your court. I don't even know who I am right now. I'm using sports metaphors. Okay, moving on. So I don't have a proper update from Lauren yet, but I promise that is coming. The last text that I have from her actually was a few days ago, and she said that someone was having a memorial for a dog, and she said they made her cry less than 36 hours after she'd arrived. So there's that. I know that the podcast is really important to her, and she misses doing it, and I know that she really wants to record something while she's in treatment. So that is coming. We don't know what we're doing. We don't have this shit planned out. We're just winging it. As are we all. Am I right? Okay, this interview is super long, so I'm just going to get right to the chase. Follow Pickles and Vodka on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast. Send me voicemails, send me memes, comment. I've been bad at posting lately, but you can still hit that message button and just let me know you're there. Let me know you're listening. It really means a lot to me, especially these days. All right, here's Andrew. Enjoy. Okay, say it again.
Hello there, Governor. We're back.
We are back. Welcome. Hello. What's your name?
Oh, hi. Well, I guess my name's Andrew. My name's Andrew. Hi.
I had to cough. Okay, I can... We could do that over again if we want. Anything goes on Pickles and Vodka.
No, one cut. No cuts.
All right, did you know, actually, you're the third Andrew that's been on this podcast?
I remember you telling me 2 years ago that you have a lot of Andrews in your life.
I have 3. My brother, my ex, and you. And I'm still good friends with all of you.
It's still only at 3?
Yeah,
Damn.
but they're all great people. Like, I haven't met a bad Andrew. Knock on wood.
I don't think I have either.
Watch an Andrew come into my life now and absolutely fuck shit up.
Well, maybe that'll be me. Who knows?
Oh, God.
I definitely have changed a lot in the last couple of years.
Well,
So
that's a great place to start. We have not spoken in, God, 2 years now.
oh, I'm gonna open our text conversation.
I think one of us
Let's
you got a
see.
new number because when I looked back on our texts,
I did.
there was like barely anything there. I might have deleted a lot of messages for storage, though.
I think you deleted messages.
Fuck. Well, I met Andrew in 2021 in treatment for our eating disorders, among other things.
We were sick.
Were.
Are. Just a little better than before.
Yeah, sick in different ways, slightly better ways.
Yes. We hadn't talked since October 3rd, 2021.
Okay,
Because you sent... Oh, God, you sent me a voice message on Wednesday, July 27th at 5:44 p.m., and I didn't realize that until literally right now. So I don't... How long is this?
How long is it?
It's 1 minute and 4 seconds. I wonder if you're baked.
Probably. Also, I'm probably asking you about the podcast.
Oh, probably.
That is
Oh, yeah, because
so
our last
funny.
text before that was me telling you that I went back... Oh, because I went back to Res.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah, you went back to Res. So tell the listeners basically your history with mental health and then what led you to go in when I met you and then what's happened since then.
That is a great prompt.
Well,
Okay, cool.
we should cover that to begin with.
For sure. Okay, backstory. So just to start, my journey with mental health literally started with eating disorder treatment when I started in January of 2021.
Wait. I'm so
point-
sorry. Can you say how old you are, where you live, anything else?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll do a quick
Pronouns, anything?
30-second thing. Okay, so I'm Andrew. I use he, him pronouns, and I live currently in close to Seattle
Yes.
in Washington.
Which is where we
And-
met.
Yep. Well, technically it was Bellevue, but nobody knows where Bellevue is, so it's irrelevant.
You can see it. I literally could see the hospital from my apartment window in Seattle.
Oh my God, I remember you. Oh, not every day though, right?
Every day when
Or was it
my
every day?
room in the hospital was facing downtown Seattle and I could see like the skyline where my apartment was. And then vice versa. When I was in Seattle, I could see the Bellevue skyline. It was really trippy, dude. So yeah, we met in the Seattle area.
Yes. Before 2021. Okay, so my mental health journey it's been a thing since I really even have memory. The first kind of introduction into the world of mental health for me started when I was in 5th grade, and my parents were seeing that I wasn't completing homework and I was forgetting assignments at home and I wasn't paying attention. So I went to this ADHD specialist and did probably a total of 6 hours of testing over a period of 3 days and got a very definitive score that diagnosed me with ADHD. So they loaded me up with Adderall, and on day 1 of taking the Adderall, I took it I don't remember where I was that I took it, but I wasn't at home. And I took it, and then I got home, and I stood in front of our garage door, and I stared at a specific nail that was in the wood that was a little bit exposed for like 5 minutes. And then I got to school, and I stared at my water bottle for an hour. So that was the only day I ever took Adderall. We immediately switched to a different medication. So throughout middle school and high school was a turbulent journey of switching medication types, having my identity be seen as just I'm late. I had a whole bunch of moral judgments given to me by my parents. I'm a bad person for not doing well in school. And so I connected my self-worth and who I am as a person to how well I'm doing in life. And considering school was pretty much all I was doing, I thought my life was terrible. I have struggled with self-esteem for as long as I can remember. And I can think back to the beginning of my eating disorder as well now. I can kind of see the beginning of it when I was about 11, because from preschool until halfway through 4th grade, I was homeschooled. Everything was at home. We went to a co-op once a week on Thursdays for 2 hours. And other than that, my only social interaction was with my family. I mean, I have 5 siblings.
So we bonded over this because I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, or I'm the oldest of 7, and we were homeschooled basically my entire life.
Oh my God, I did not remember that you were homeschooled.
I didn't remember that you were either until just now. It might be an ADHD thing. That's one thing that's happened in the last 2 years with me. I have strongly suspected that I have ADHD, and I'm in the process of, getting a diagnosis, which is hard when you're 30 and you don't have health insurance.
Yeah, that makes things hard.
But I can relate a lot to your story. So, yeah, what birth order are you? I'm curious.
I have 2 older siblings, and then me, and then 2 younger siblings, and I have a brother that's the youngest. I can only use the word sibling to describe 4 of them right now because they're all in the beginning of a queer journey. So
gotcha. Well, yeah, if you're anything like me, your family is all over the place and complicated, and
oh yeah,
we wouldn't have it any other way, I guess.
Absolutely not. Life is a TV show, and it would be boring if everyone was straight. So
I couldn't have said it better myself. Mic drop.
So anyway, high school was jam-packed full of medication changes, thinking I'm a piece of shit. I would go to school to escape what was happening at home, and I wanted to go home to escape what was happening at school, because in both places, I was having my self-worth getting torn down by unrealistic expectations that I put on myself. And it just tore me up.
You're not safe anywhere.
No, I wasn't safe anywhere, so I was always on edge. So I was always having at least some level of a fight or flight feeling going on. I think that now that I think back, I think that's probably why I was so fucking sweaty and red all the time. And yeah, I was always feeling like I was in danger. I mean, I was literally there was different levels of abuse at home. Most of it was verbal and emotional, slight physical periodically, but paled in comparison to the emotional and gaslighting and stuff like that. So,
but that kind of stuff does come out in physical ways, like, the sweating and whatnot.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a stress response. Your body is undergoing stress constantly. There's going to
What's that hormone or chemical that your brain gives off that causes stress?
Cortisol. Yeah. Right. I just watched a TED Talk about this. It's fascinating. Ooh, we're going to go off on a tangent, though. You need to continue. We're going to be here all night.
I'm good at keeping us on track. Don't worry.
Amazing.
Kind of. Unless it's a cool tangent, then I'm going off the rail.
We do love a tangent.
Absolutely. So high school ended, and I don't know how I graduated. I graduated with like a 2.4, and for some reason they gave me a college prep diploma. So I don't understand that. I think it's just because all the teachers love me, because when I'm in class, I am the life of the class. I'm asking questions. I'm countering the teacher. I'm challenging perspectives. And considering I went to a private Christian, legalistic, sexist, racist, patriarchal, everything that you can think of this school did, they didn't like it when people asked questions.
Yeah.
So you had to fit a certain cookie cutter box to succeed there. And I am nowhere near the right shape for that cookie cutter. So it just wasn't going to work out. They didn't have mental health services. I had teachers getting mad at me because I was struggling. I really should have been at a public school and being able to take advantage of special education classes and get a tutor and get someone to help me educate on ADHD, because up until 2021, my entire life, I have not had words to describe the feelings, thoughts, and thoughts that I'm having that are causing this mental turmoil. And once I learned these words through therapy, treatment, and self-learning, it makes me mad. It makes me mad that I did not have therapy not even just available. I didn't even know the use of it until I actually got in it, because my first therapy session was January 6th, 2021 at 9 a.m. with, what's his name? He taught ACT. The guy who would always do the squat with his hands.
We would bleep it out anyway.
Oh, good point. HIPAA.
I mean, I think January 7th was the day that I admitted. So that would have, because it was your second day when I got there. I remember you told me you were also new.
The Washington riots. Oh, do you talk politics at all on this podcast or no?
They know where I lean, but we...
Okay. all I'm going to say is I just made the realization that I got admitted on the same day as the Capitol bullshit. So that's interesting. That was a day of chaos for everyone.
Yes. I remember that happened and I was about to go to treatment, and afterwards someone congratulated me for getting through it and not drinking. And I didn't even think about it. I was, just... Anyway, so that was a pivotal time for you.
Absolutely.
I remember as you were going through this painful revelation and transformation, it was very apparent to us, like, how you were changing and, like,
Really? Can you tell me more about that?
I mean, the way that you described yourself in school as just being the life of the party and talking to the teachers and everything and contributing, that is literally how you were in treatment. Like, every group that I got to be in with you, I was so happy because I knew there would always be amazing conversations. But then, there was another side of you that I could tell was just exhausted all the time and was fighting just to be there, mentally some days. Like, you would go in and have your individual therapy session or your family session, and you would come out just absolutely drained and you wouldn't contribute. And like, I could tell when that switch occurred. So it was very obvious to me that you were going through something painful. And, in a way we all were. The support system you make in treatment is so powerful and special. But at the same time, you really have to stay in your own lane, and focus on yourself because you're all going through changes like that.
100%. You got to be selfish treatment or you're not going to succeed.
Yeah. And it's funny we're having this conversation today because my co-host Lauren is getting admitted today, like probably as we speak. This is a perfect
topic.
Yeah. Anyway, so talk about how that journey culminated in 2021 and what happened after that.
Okay. So I was in residential for 42 days starting on January 6th, and it was life-changing. It was radical. It was powerful. It was painful. It was every emotion I can think of, plus more. It
was fun.
It was also really, really, really fun.
We have so many inside jokes from that time.
Do you remember the retainer?
No. What's the retainer?
Oh, no, you were in the hallway for that. It was at like midnight. There were like 6 of us in the hallway, and I showed everyone my retainer and explained the back. Have you heard my retainer story?
Yes, I have, but you should. Can you tell it in like 3 minutes or less?
I can summarize it. Okay, so I had braces for about a year, and I got a retainer, and it was just clear. It was boring. I didn't like it. It would get gross. And I was like, fuck that. So when I got a new retainer, like 2015, 2016, something like that, I was sitting in a chair and so, have you had braces?
Yes.
Okay. So, and you've had retainers, correct?
Yeah, I have a permanent retainer now as we speak.
Hey, me too. On the bottom.
Hey, yep.
Yep. Did you win? Okay, that's another side tangent.
Is it a bulimia thing?
The goop that they put in your mouth to make the mold. Do you remember that?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I did not. I embarrassed myself, and I'm not going to go into more detail than that, but you viewers can imagine, or listeners can imagine what happened. It was mortifying. So after that happened, I tried to be funny to kind of make myself feel more comfortable again after embarrassing myself and shocking the nurse. So they were like, okay, what color do you want? And I sat there, flustered, red, and needing a new shirt. And I said, you know what? Pink with sparkles.
Yes.
And she looked at me, did a double take, and said, well, okay. And then walked away. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think she would take me seriously because my tone of voice, demeanor, and intention was to make a joke, to be like funny.
But if you didn't give her any other color, how was she supposed to know? Was she just going to pick one for you? That's a liability, Andrew.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so 2 weeks later, I get to the office. And mind you, I have gone to the same dentist from the age of 0 until like 23. These people know me. I don't have to say anything when I walk in. They just sign me in, say, hi, Andrew, how are you doing? And I talk to them. There were like 4 people standing there around the person holding the box with my retainer in it. And I walk up and I forgot completely because it was 2 weeks later. So I completely forgot that I had told them pink with sparkles. So they present me. They like opened their hands, palm out, with this little box. And I'm like, what are you all doing? Because I know all of them by name. And I lost it. I opened the box. There's a retainer sitting there, pink with sparkles, bright, just epic. And it is like my favorite.
I've seen
I don't know
it.
what of. I don't.
It's beautiful.
Right? It's awesome. So I'm really glad that I sarcastically said that.
I just forgot. I have painted your nails. Was it black and
Multiple
sparkly?
times, I think. Well, it was just pure black one time, and then there was another time it was aqua with sparkles and then a layer of clear coat over top. I don't know why I remember that exactly, but I do.
We had a lot of fun in treatment, as we were saying, but lots of pain as well.
Yeah, it was a combination of the two. So I went through residential and then PHP. PHP, I was there for about 2 months.
I did that with you too.
Yeah. In April of 2021, 4 months into treatment for me, my grandma died. And that was the first death that I have experienced where it is someone that is very emotionally close to me. And it blindsided me. The day that I learned she died, I immediately went to the dispensary after the day I was done in PHP and bought like 5 grams of weed.
Now, when you went to treatment, what were your main issues, if you don't mind me asking?
Are you talking about substances or like just mental, like diagnoses?
Diagnoses. I'm getting the sense that you were trying to be sober from weed as well.
So at the time, I was aware that I had ADHD and I was aware that I had depression. I was not aware of any other diagnoses that I know now. But now that I have knowledge, I went into treatment with major depressive disorder, general anxiety disorder, PTSD. I don't remember if I've said ADHD yet or not, but I had that. And some obsessive compulsive tendencies. I haven't been fully diagnosed with OCD because I don't quite make it on the scoring stuff. That was my list. And I was also struggling with 4 different addictions.
A polysubstance addiction, if you will.
Nicotine, which I still
I'm
vape
vaping
every
right
day.
now, literally into the microphone.
I'm afraid to vape because I don't want the mic to pick it up.
It'll happen. It's fine. You can't pick it up.
Okay, so
I didn't hear eating disorder stuff in that.
Oh, right. Well, I'm kind of in the mindset now of seeing my eating disorder. A large part of it I see as an addiction because viewing my issues all as addictions has radically helped. And that kind of goes against what ERC taught because I remember them being pretty adamant about not thinking of eating disorders as addictions. And that was the worst advice that I could have possibly been given because I was in complete denial about my alcohol usage. I have struggled with binge drinking and habitual drinking since 2016 when I was 18 years old. I moved to Germany and I, for the most part, for the first 23 or so years of my life have been a pretty by the book, follow all the rules, don't break any laws, bootlicker. I mean,
it's the
everything.
I think it's the way we grew up. Like to this day, I am 30 years old. I look like a punk. I am deeply afraid of authority. I am deeply afraid of authority. I'm deeply afraid of breaking the rules. I'm afraid that if I do something bad, even if I'm alone, then someone's going to see. And I think that comes from the way we were raised. I won't elaborate, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that can be a topic for another time.
Yeah.
We could talk about religion for
I won't even touch that.
hours. Actually, you might not even be referring to religion, but that's what I was thinking.
I've talked many times on the podcast about my own experience with a religious upbringing, and all they have to know is the listeners is that you have a similar upbringing. Yeah.
Okay, so at treatment, they offered a class for substance use disorder, and I said no. When they asked me what my alcohol usage was, I completely lied, saying I maybe had a drink or 2 a week, when in reality, I was drinking a 5th every 2 or 3 days for the whole year of 2020. And the first day getting out of residential, I immediately, after I got home, walked to the QFC, which is unfortunately and fortunately was about a quarter-mile walk from my house, and bought a 5th of Smirnoff vodka and absolutely got smashed. And I didn't think anything of it. I was in complete denial. If you had asked me if I had a problem, I would not have been lying to you when I told you that I don't have a problem. I completely duped myself into thinking that I was fine. and it bit me in the butt.
The case for so many people. I mean, that was the case with
right?
me. Like, you have to reach that point where you admit you have a problem. It sounds cliche, but it's true. Like, until then, nothing's going to work. And I remember in PHP, you would come in and talk about incidents like that. Like, you were always very open about any quote unquote lapses or relapses that you had. With eating, with substances. Was there self-harm in there as well? I think I remember you mentioning that one time. We don't have to talk about it.
No, I'm fine with talking about that. I don't know if I had any self-harm relapses during PHP or res. I definitely did once I got to outpatient, and then when I went, in outpatient I did. But I don't remember if there were any relapses while you and I were in person in treatment together with self-harm. It is something I've struggled with. Yeah,
and we have a lot of similar experiences, and I also have a very similar mindset as you, which is these are all addictions, whether it's, an eating disorder or self-harm.
Cool.
I view it all as addictions. And so you would talk about that in group, and I always respected that about you a lot. But I could also tell, like, man, like, it's happening often, like, it sucks. Because I could tell you were trying to get the help, and you were going home every night and struggling, which happened to me too. It's really hard when you're in residential and then you get out and you go home every night and you're faced with all this freedom, and then you get hit with your grandma dying, and that just made it even worse.
Kicked my butt. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 times that I just randomly during a group had to stand up from the table, go to a side office and cry for 30 minutes. And that was so cleansing. I did not stop my body from experiencing grief how it wanted to experience grief. I just went for the ride, and it was so healing. And I miss her, but at the same time, I am so psyched for her because she's a deeply religious person and has been so psyched since my grandpa died in 2002 to join him in what she thinks is going to be heaven. And I'm just, now the only emotion I think when it hits her birthday is I think, if heaven actually does exist, then I know she's looking down at me right now, and she is absolutely psyched to be up there with Grandpa Sam. So the grief really worked. I got through all the stages really fast.
That's a really beautiful way of looking at it, and I'm really proud of you for doing that work. And it's not an easy thing. I am 30, and I have not lost anyone close to me yet. We did a whole episode about it.
It's gonna hit you like a truck.
Yeah, it's wild. But I want to go back to that moment where you were crying and you just felt this relief. It's funny that that's what really helps us, but we
crying.
Yeah. And yet that is what we are trying to suppress when we use substances. At least for me, like it's
me too.
Numbing.
Absolutely.
You're trying to numb yourself. So
self-medicate.
So yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit more.
Oh, totally.
What was that like?
I'm really interested in that kind of thing.
What would you say is the main reason that you use substances and that you continued to use substances even while you were getting treatment for your eating disorder?
I began using alcohol and nicotine and marijuana and my eating addiction and my porn addiction. All 5 of those all began to avoid the everyday pain that I was experiencing. And I was using all of these different maladaptive behaviors to make myself feel better and give myself a little bit of joy. But that joy came at a cost, and it wasn't worth it.
It never is.
And I know that now. And a big thing for me over the past 2 years, or I guess now 2.5 years, I have gone through a journey of accepting my addictions and grieving those maladaptive behaviors and allowing them to be in the past. I don't get mad at myself for having an eating disorder it started when I was 11. I'm 26 now. So I had my eating disorder for 15 years. Well, okay, I still have it.
Yeah, I mean,
it started 15 years ago. That's what I meant to say. I don't get mad at myself for having binged or hidden food or all of the behaviors that I went through growing up. I am responsible for them, though, and
it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. You were just 100%. Doing what you had to get through it.
I'm going to circle back to the responsibility and accountability thing after talking through 2021. But
one more thought before I forget it. It has to do with ADHD, which is ironic.
That's very ironic.
It's interesting that, one of the things that people with ADHD really need is dopamine.
Yeah.
Like, basically, you're just trying to get dopamine however you can. And I think it's really interesting that you consider your overarching problem to be addiction. And I think a lot of people with addiction that starts early, especially, I see a lot of correlation between addicts and people with ADHD. So there's, I'm not a doctor or a scientist. I've read a few articles, but I just think it's interesting.
I think it's fascinating too.
So where are we in the timeline? Your grandma died.
So my grandma died. That rocked my boat in PHP and caused me to increase my usage of substances. And it also increased my need to lie to everyone around me to give off the image that I'm doing okay. That is a coping mechanism that I've used for years to protect myself from judgment. From needing help. So I got through PHP, started intensive outpatient, or I'm going to refer to it as IOP. And I did that until like halfway through June. I got a job at a lumber yard that was near me.
I remember that.
So IOP got done. I was on a really hot streak of taking my meds every day. That's something that I've struggled with since the beginning of memory, is taking my meds consistently.
What meds are you on now? Or what meds were you on then?
I was on Prozac and Adderall. I went back to Adderall like 10 years after trying it for the first time, and it was successful the second time. I no longer take Adderall because that turned into... I abused it for about a month during 2022, so I do not use Adderall anymore.
That's
it's
how
too
it
good.
Goes.
That's all I have to say about it.
This is why we can't have nice things.
It's very true. So I was on an SSRI. I was on an ADHD medication. I was on an anxiety medication. Things were going really well. And then I quit my meds because every time I start doing well in my life, the first thing that stops is my meds because I think I'm good.
I am nodding furiously right now. This is so common.
Wait, is it really?
Yes. Oh my God. Literally, like, multiple psychiatrists have told me that. Like, when I got on SSRIs, they're like, it's going to take a few months to kick in, then you might start feeling better, but that is when you absolutely should not stop taking it.
Oh, I thought I was an outlier. That's actually really nice to hear.
No, it's very common.
I'm like leaning forward right now. Holy shit, I did not know that.
You can do your own research. We don't have time for that, but...
Yeah. So I stopped my meds. I now consider medication to be my first layer of defense against...
the demons.
Preventable life failures. There's probably a better way to say that. No, that was a way
more logical way of saying it. I like how I was just like demons and you were like preventable life failures. I don't know. No, it makes sense. It's like we don't have a lot of control, but we do have these little things we can do to kind of bolster us.
Build a foundation. I got rid of my foundation, and that led to my anxiety increasing, and that got rid of my foundation of healthiness. And that led me down a spiral of going back to lying to everyone that I was doing well, isolating in my room after work, only eating takeout food, not cooking food for myself.
I think we need to ask at this point, how was your relationship with yourself?
At this moment, during IOP?
Yeah, like what was going on with your sense of self? Because I know it can be really hard when you do get out of treatment and then you find yourself still struggling. Like for me, I just used that as fodder to fuel my self-hatred and proof that I was a failure.
Yeah. So I, after treatment, tried to keep as many things from my life of addiction and eating disorder as I could. I tried to do as many things the same as I could. I basically, not floundered, what's the word? I was out of control after treatment. I can't, there's a word to describe like being lost after having support, but I just went back. I went back to living my life the same way. I was door dashing every day. I was spending all my money on food. I was drinking all the time. And I learned some things during residential and PHP about body neutrality and about improving my self-image and self-worth. And I made some progress. Thankfully, I had in my mind at the time and now, well, I kind of understand it a lot better now, that recovery is not linear and things change. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the work you previously did is now moot or doesn't matter. And at the same time, I, in a sense, relapsed in my self-hatred. And went back to believing that I am this ugly, bad, mean, unlovable person. And I then lived my life according to those values, and my life reflected that. My therapist that I had during intensive outpatient ended up leaving ERC, and I stayed with her as my therapist. And there came a day, it was around the same time that I ended up quitting my job. I didn't talk to her. I had disappeared from work. I no call, no showed, didn't say a word. I have literally not been to that place since I quit.
So losing going off your meds was like the chink in your armor, and
that was the start.
Yeah, and then ghosting your therapist and isolating, that was the plunge.
Actually, you know what? I quit my therapist before I quit my job, because I quit my therapist because I didn't think I needed her anymore. I thought I was fixed. I thought I was good.
Hilarious,
stupid, ignorant, all of that.
So what happened next?
Well, I crashed and burned again. I drained my bank account, not caring about what was going to happen. I grew up with a father who was a financial advisor, and that is like the 8th or 9th best paying job in the country. So I grew up with a very, very high level of privilege that has only been the last couple of years that I've come to acknowledge that privilege and be humble about it. I wouldn't say that I've been boastful or throwing it in people's face in the past, because my parents did a good job of teaching me to not broadcast what people can already see. And at the same time, okay, I'm having an ADHD moment. Can you tell me the question again? Oh,
you were talking about your dad's money and like how it made you feel.
Right.
You didn't rub it in people's faces, but you weren't aware of your privilege necessarily.
I wasn't aware of my privilege, and I was in a severe codependent relationship with both my dad and my mom. Every time that I have had a crash and burn moment, I've always had in the back of my mind the reassuring thought that, my parents will bail me out. And that happened every single fucking time. I let my life get so bad multiple times over the last 7 years, pretty much since the end of high school, that I've had to have my parents bail me out, or else I would be on the street.
Yeah.
And that assumption and crutch was just as present in 2021 as it was 2020 or 2019 or 2018. That mindset of, I'll be fine because I have this
security blanket.
And that security blanket stopped me from growing. I relapsed in my eating disorder just as hard as I lost my job or lost my therapist, and ended up going back and doing the exact same type of treatment again in September of 2021. I went to Res. I was there for, I think, 6 weeks again. And then I went to PHP. I went to PHP, but I used their housing because I didn't have anywhere to go. I would have been on the street.
Those apartments were pretty nice.
My parents thankfully started setting boundaries with me and cutting off the support, which is what I needed. I needed to have that pruning.
At the time, were you upset though at them? Or at that point, were you just so resigned to your fate? You were just like, I didn't whatever. Care.
Yeah. Got to December of 2021. At the end of PHP, I got hired as a parking enforcement person at Google campus, and that was the best paying job I've ever had. And the cycle started again. I quit my meds. I thought I was good. I stopped talking to my therapist. I quit IOP after 2 days. I thought I was good. I tried to do everything by myself. I thought my ego at the time was inflated to the point where I didn't think that I wanted or needed help from any other human. I thought that I was in control of my life, and if I wasn't able to solve it by myself without outside help, including medication, then I'm a piece of shit.
It is just like the medication. It's like, now that I have this stuff, now that I have the help, I don't need it because I feel fine. But it's like, no, the help is what made you feel fine in the first place.
Right.
You can't just quit the help cold turkey, just like you can't quit the meds cold turkey. Why do we always do these things to ourselves? It's like we're repeating history time and time again.
Because the human brain likes what it's familiar with. And my brain, I can only speak for myself, in the past has been very familiar with anxiety, guilt, and shame. And that is where I feel the most natural. So I shape life decisions to get me back to a state of being ashamed of myself, guilty about my actions, and anxious all the time.
Well, and also when you're the one inflicting the misfortune on yourself, it's like, okay, at least I know where this is coming from. Whereas something like your grandma dying, it happens and you're like, holy shit, I can't prepare for this because this is out of my control.
Yeah. So I quit IOP. 2022 started. I spent New Year's Eve. I think I got blackout drunk by myself in my room.
I've had a few of those.
And I made it about 2 months into that job. I was walking like, I only can quantify it in steps because I bought a pedometer for this job because there was a lot of walking. I was averaging steps per day.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds
triggering. Which is like, it was bad. It was really, 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 really bad. My feet got torn up. I lost 2 toenails because I didn't have the right kind of shoes. I would get home from work and every day I'd have to walk up the stairs backwards. Once I got to my bed, I would not stand up again until the next morning. I would crawl to the bathroom.
Oh my God.
I would do some kind of weird exorcist walk down the stairs to grab my food from the front door. And then I ended up ghosting that job too. Thankfully, well, okay, not thankfully, I actually got some money saved from that job. So when I dropped off the face of the planet to that job, I didn't have the same level of crash and burn that I had previously. And I picked up a job at a breakfast cafe. I became a host. And that lasted about a month. At that point, from the start of 2022, I was drinking a fifth a day. Any moment that I wasn't at work, I was either under the influence of alcohol or under the influence of weed. And my anxiety was increasing. My depression was getting to a very dangerous point. I was dealing with suicidal ideation every moment of every day.
Yep.
And it got to the point where I couldn't separate my work life from my personal life. Usually before that, I could kind of put on a face. And it got to the point where I couldn't. And it ended with April 29th of 2022, me calling my mom and telling her about what I had previously just attempted, and resulted in her immediately dropping what she was doing, driving to my house, and transporting me back to Overlake. I went to the behavioral health unit, and I stayed there for 6 days. I needed help. I had attempted suicide. Thank everything that I failed.
Yeah.
Because I tried twice within 10 minutes. And believe it or not, that is not my rock bottom. That suicide attempt resulted in a stay at a behavioral health unit. My mother and one of my siblings cleaned out my room, moved out my stuff, put it in a storage unit, and they got to see the mess because I wouldn't throw away my alcohol bottles. They would just lay around. So they walk in my room and they see 30 or 40 bottles of Smirnoff and Svedka. And my mom came to visit me on my third day at the behavioral health unit, sat down with me, looked me square in the eyes and said, "You are a fucking alcoholic. You need help. You are going to die if you do not help yourself." And in that moment, I relented. I, for the first time, admitted I had a problem that I couldn't deal with myself. I ended up going to a 28-day inpatient alcohol rehab program. Spent probably the first 2 or 3 weeks of that at some level of denial.
Hey, at least you were through the door at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did that, and I had this good sense to realize that I needed to stay in treatment. So I ended up taking on $12,000 in debt to go to a treatment center that isn't covered by my insurance in Olympia, which is the capital of Washington.
That's where my cat's from.
I did a 12-week program over the summer of 2022. It was life-changing. It was one of the best experiences of my life. And at the same time, on the last day of that 12-week program, I moved into a sober house. What did I do on that first day at the sober house? I quit my meds. August 26th, 2022 was the last time that I quit my meds. And that at that moment, I had just been promoted at Walgreens to becoming an assistant manager. I was kicking butt. I was making good money. I was saving. I was cooking food. I was going to meetings twice a week. I was talking with roommates, and then I quit my meds.
Audience, say it with us, and then I quit my meds.
Yeah, that should be the name of this fucking podcast.
It's going to be the name of this episode, I think.
Yeah. Got through September kind of okay. October started isolating a lot more, started door dashing more, was getting to the second week of the pay period with only a couple $100, maybe overdrawing the day before the next paycheck because I'm spending $70 to $80 a day on DoorDash for my food. I was staying sober because I was getting drug tested randomly throughout the weeks.
Sober from whatever drugs they were testing you from. We've talked how the food is an absolutely
Right. You can't drug test for an eating disorder.
Yeah.
I was back to binging and purging. At least I was binging 3 to 4 times a week, and I was purging 1 to 2 times a week. It was really bad. My anxiety got back to the same point of being super high, and I didn't care. And unbeknownst to me, actually not unbeknownst to me, but it hadn't fully clicked in my mind that when I went to this PHP program, that was $12,000. My parents split the cost with me, so I'm very blessed to have been able to get help from them. I owe them $6,000, and I'm just about to be in a position to start paying that back monthly. It's still debt, but I'm not dealing with the ramifications that you would usually have to deal with. So again, that's massive privilege.
Even if it were twice, triple the amount of debt, you're here. You know, it's worth it.
Yeah. And at the same time, I continued the cycle of insanity. I quit my managerial position at Walgreens. I was kicking butt. I had a clear path of career progression. I can't remember what the word is, but I was able to... Yes, I had a path to becoming a store manager. And I didn't care. I ended up quitting my job. And I kept up the same facade that I've kept over and over again in the past. Except this time, it did not click in my head that I did not have the safety platform of my parents bailing me out. I made it about a month from the day before Thanksgiving to the morning of Christmas Eve. A behavioral health tech from the treatment center came to the house, came into my room, and told me I had till 6 p.m. to get out. I advocated for myself a little bit and was able to convince them to let me stay till 8 a.m. the next day. And mind you, I'm like $400 overdrawn at this point. I stopped checking my bank account. I had my bank account directly attached to my DoorDash account. And I was under the incorrect assumption that once my account hit zero, that DoorDash would start declining my transactions. They did not. And I wasn't checking my app at all to realize this. So my account, my bank allowed me to get to the point of having $650 overdrawn.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was bad. My parents helped out a sum in the sense of they paid for an Uber ride back to Bellevue because there are more AA resources that they know about in this area. And they paid for a hotel room for me from Christmas Eve until New Year's. And I was not out of the sober house for more than 2 hours before I relapsed on both alcohol and marijuana. I spent the next 6 days bullshitting my parents, saying that I was searching for emergency housing, that I was visiting homeless shelters, that I was talking to friends, that I was connecting with AA members, when really what I was doing was spending the cash that they gave me for food for those 6 days and spending it on weed and alcohol. And New Year's Eve, I got kicked out of the hotel room at like 3 p.m. because I just procrastinated. And mind you, this entire time, I'm not feeling any emotion. I don't care. I'm just, whatever's happening is happening. So we get to New Year's Eve, about 2 p.m. I got kicked out of the hotel. And then I just stood outside the hotel for like an hour. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, what do you do at that point? What the fuck do I do?
So I hid my bags behind a bush and started walking and got to the block across from the hotel. What is there is an abandoned previous Marriott hotel. There's a gap in the fence. I go through the fence because I'm just exploring at this point, and I find a little landing that has a covering over it. And I'm like, okay, well, this is private. This is what I thought was safe, and I can just camp out here for a little bit while I figure out what to do. I stayed there for 2 weeks.
Holy shit.
I told my parents that I was staying with an old friend. This ordeal ended on January 14th. I spent from January 1st through January 14th sleeping in a stairwell of an abandoned hotel with no electricity. I would walk back over to the hotel that I was staying at, and I would hide behind the building and use their power outlet. I would walk to Trader Joe's and I would steal food. There would be homeless people that would also walk through the building, grabbing copper wiring and pipes. There was quite literally a heist on my last night there. 3 people showed up with a U-Haul, used bolt cutters to open up the janitorial bay or whatever, and then proceeded to stuff the entire U-Haul full of cleaning supplies and detergent and other things that you can resell to get some money. And I'm just standing here kind of terrified because I didn't want them to know that I was there. So I went up to the roof. That was my second time going up to the roof the night of the 13th, because on the night of the 10th, I almost repeated attempting again. I was sitting on the edge with my feet hanging over off I think it was 9 stories. So I had my ticket right there. I didn't because I don't know. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't.
I mean, I'm glad you didn't, obviously.
Yeah. So the 14th came. I had no health insurance. I had no job. I had no money. I had intentionally isolated myself to the point where no one was going to call or text and ask how I'm doing because they didn't know I was having an issue. Because I had told everyone that I was staying with a friend and that I was setting up emergency housing, that I was going to AA and all these things.
Was this all very strategic on your part?
No, I just winged it as I went, lied as I went, spun my usual web of lies, and then it all came crashing down. But this time it came crashing down because of a choice I made. I decided to reach out to actually, I reached out to my mom first. I spilled the beans completely about what had been happening over the last 2 weeks. And just to let you know, she had been visiting for Christmas, and she came to see me at the hotel the night that she was flying back down to California, and I did as much as I could to not see her. I didn't want her to see me, but she still came, and I lied to her and told her that I was fine. So she went home not suspecting that I was about to get homeless for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So the 14th comes.
That's this year, by the way.
That is this year. That is
a few months ago.
3.5 months ago.
So we're almost caught up to the present.
We're almost there. I reached out to a friend from AA. He picked me up. He took me to a meeting. He bought me a burger. We tried to get me emergency housing that night, but it didn't work. And his boundary was really clear that he would help me, but he was not providing a place for me to stay. So he brought me back to the abandoned hotel, and I spent another night there. And the next day, he came at like 7:30 a.m., took me to his house, let me shower, let me do a load of laundry, because I literally had been wearing the same clothes for 2 weeks. My clothes had all been in a green canvas bag, and on the day that I came up back to Bellevue from Olympia, I had to walk for about 45 minutes in the rain to get to the hotel from where the Uber driver dropped me off. So my clothes were all
moldy and shit.
Corrupted by the water. Moldy, God damn it, that's the word.
That's what I'm here for.
So he helped me. I ended up coming to the decision of going back to the behavioral health unit, and I tell you, I've never been triaged so fast. I got triaged fast, but I had to stay in the ER room from like 12 p.m. till 11 at night, and then I got admitted. From the moment on the 14th that I admitted that I was powerless over alcohol, my life has been completely different. I engaged in groups at the behavioral health unit. I advocated for myself to stay longer, so I ended up staying 5 days instead of what they wanted, which was 4. I started looking at treatment options again, and I found a place. Mind you, I'm on Apple Health at this point, which is Washington State's state health insurance. So my options are extremely limited.
I think I read somewhere that Washington State was 48th in terms of mental health care.
Oh my God, are you serious?
This would have been in 2021 when we were in treatment together. I don't know what it is currently, but yeah, it was pretty bad.
So the substance use disorder professional at Overlake's behavioral health unit tried to push a treatment option on me that wasn't covered by insurance that would cost $100,000, and she said that was the only option that I had.
What?
So I'm sitting there like, what are you talking about? Like, that is
what is she
bullshit.
talking about?
So I said, okay, I'm not doing that. I want the next best option. So I ended up getting a bed date. Now, I got discharged from the behavioral health unit on the 20th of January. The problem is that my bed date was the 31st. I had to somehow get through 11 days. The behavioral health unit completely washed their hands of any way of helping me. I asked everyone that I could for resources, and yes, my parents did end up helping out again by giving me a place to stay for those 11 days, but it was under a lot of conditions, and I'm currently paying them back, and I don't see it as the same level of crutch as the help that they had previously given me, which was carte blanche, hundreds of dollars, paying for rent, paying for treatment, doing all these things. That this was a loan.
It's like you're allowing them to help you, and they're happy to help you, but there are safeguards in place. There's
boundaries that are well defined and that they follow through on.
Because you're not a bad person for accepting their help either. But given your history with accepting their help, it makes sense that you would want to have boundaries. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I get to the 31st. I made it. I made it from the 20th to the 31st sober. off everything. Somehow. I spent a good amount of time during those 11 days with my aunt, who I hadn't really connected with for a long time. And we're now pretty close. I'm actually staying at her ex-husband's house currently.
Love that for you.
I mean, he's my uncle. I call him Uncle so-and-so. He's my uncle, just not technically by blood.
So they're a support system for you.
They are a support system for me. They have been extremely helpful. So the 31st rolls around. So I get to the treatment center. I get admitted. I submit all my bags and stuff to get searched. I get to my bed. I put the bedding on my bed. And I'm like, great. Okay, let's go to lunch. I eat lunch. Then I walk back into my room and there's 3 people standing there packing my stuff up. And I'm like, whoa. What's going on here? My counselor says, we need to talk. You don't have enough meds to cover your stay here. Apparently, you need to have all of the meds that you would need for the entire stay before you even go, even though there is a pharmacy a quarter mile down the road. I tried to pick up my next prescription the day before admitting. When I got to the pharmacy, they said, no, you need to wait another 5 days before you can pick up your next prescription. So there were only 5 days of gap.
Right.
On the 6th day of being at this new treatment center, they could have easily driven down the road a quarter mile and picked up my meds for me. No, they kicked me out. Now I'm outside with my bags going, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And my aunt and uncle came through for me. My uncle offered me to stay at his place for an undefined amount of time. I got to his place, start of February. He is a contractor for a deck and dock and garage remodeling company, and they had a job opening. I was super adamant, and he was super adamant that this was not a charity case, that he was not offering me a job because I needed a job. He was offering me a job because they had a need, and I had experience with roofing and logistics that would help them. That's really important for me to say because I didn't and don't want to accept just pure charity like that anymore.
That makes a difference when you're actually trying and when you feel needed. It has the effect often of making you actually wanting to give a shit.
Yeah. So here I am at my uncle's place doing yard work every day. And I still struggled with the same things. I was having trouble with my sleep schedule. I was having trouble eating consistently. What I wasn't struggling with was I wasn't struggling with taking my meds.
Good. I was going to say, how are your meds right now? Everyone's wondering.
Oh, good point. Yes, I am taking my meds. I am on like a month and some change streak of meds every day. So
amazing. Air horn here.
I started work on the 13th of March, and since then I've had almost perfect attendance. Thankfully, work is quite literally a mile away. So if I sleep in, work is like 5 minutes away. I have slept in 20 minutes past my alarm twice. So I've gotten to work 30 minutes late twice. But other than that, I am rebuilding relationships with people that I haven't talked to in 3, 4, 5 years. I'm regularly scheduling FaceTime calls with people to get people back in my life. I'm not very active with AA right now because I really just don't have the time for it. There are other priorities that I'm focusing on that are helping me in ways that AA also would help. I'm just kind of replacing it with some other things right now.
You're doing what you can, and you're rebuilding your armor with the materials you have.
I'm building a foundation.
Exactly.
And I am not shying away from personal responsibility and accountability. I have fucked up royally in the past. I have burned bridges. I have a friend that I burned extremely bad at the end of 2022, and we are no longer on any level of talking terms. I tried to reach out about a week ago. I apologized profusely after getting out of the behavioral health unit, but that's just simply not enough. He was straight up frank with me that the way I burned him, at least for the foreseeable future, he's not prepared to be friends with me. And I have to just accept that. And I have accepted it because I was a complete asshole and I was unaware. I was egotistical and I was selfish. Only person that mattered was me. And I'm at the point now where I am treating myself. Oh, this is almost going to make me cry. I am treating myself with the same level of respect that I treat everyone else. So
that's amazing.
And my life, this is the best I have ever been.
You're here.
I'm fucking doing it. I just today went to Wells Fargo and opened up a bank account, both a checking and savings account that I'm going to get the card in about a week.
Look at you adulting and shit.
Right? I'm on my own health insurance plan. I am about to get on my own phone plan, and I'm taking every step possible to become truly independent and in charge of my life. Instead of letting things happening to me, I am choosing to do things. And I have never had as much fun being a person as I have been in the last 2 months. The only way that this happened is by hitting a rock bottom that I didn't think I'd ever hit. I was homeless for 2 weeks. I was suicidal. It was terrifying. And things have only gotten better because I've admitted that there are things that I'm powerless over. And I have admitted that I have made mistakes. And I'm not shying away from those mistakes. I am confronting them and learning from them and moving on. I'm keeping the past mistakes that I've made in perspective, that I have had bad days, but just because I have one bad day does not mean that all the time after that needs to be bad as well because I made one failure.
Absolutely.
That one day of having anxiety, or last Tuesday was the second day that I accidentally woke up at 7:45 to a phone call and had to rush to work. And instead of having that change my entire day and thinking I'm a piece of shit for the rest of the day, I quite literally, what I did is I walked into work. I was frank with my bosses. I told them that I simply messed up and that I'm going to make effort to not have it happen again. And then I had a good fucking day of work, and I got home and I was happy and I was satisfied and I went to sleep good.
Imagine that.
My anxiety level and my depression level, if you gave me one of those assessment forms that we would do at the beginning and end of every day in treatment, I would 100% honestly and truly circle to zero.
Oh, I just got chills.
And I have never been able to say that before.
All I can say is I admired and respected you before. After hearing this story, I admire and respect you even more.
I appreciate that.
And I'm just so fucking proud of the fact that despite having so many bottoms and despite getting, turned down time and time again, and you keep going and you keep getting help and just trying to be better one day at a time. And that's all we can hope for, honestly. And I absolutely see you doing great things and helping a lot of people in whatever way it is. You already are.
One of the main reasons that I have procrastinated coming on this podcast with you is because for the last 2 years, I have not felt that I was in a position to be giving advice or to be helping people.
Well, this is not an advice podcast. Let's make that clear.
I know. But even speaking on perspective, I've just felt too lost in my own life.
You're in it. You didn't have the ability.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm in a new season now, and that I want to share my experience with people. And I'm at the point now where I share my life story, not with everyone, but I give chunks of truth about myself to people that most individuals would not share. And the effect that has on my relationships with people has been radical. I have developed friendships and coworker relations, and I am back to who I am supposed to be. I am supposed to be extroverted. I am supposed to be getting energy from being around people. And that's what's happening now. I know that I no longer have a mask on in any sense of the word.
That's a very difficult place to get to. And I hope you're proud of yourself. Are you fucking proud of yourself? I am extremely fucking
proud of myself now.
Good. You better be.
Yeah, I am now excited about the future. I am actively looking for a girl.
Yes.
There was someone I was talking to for about 2 weeks, and then I got ghosted, so I had to deal with that for about an hour, and then I realized that it's really her loss, not mine. So
exactly.
There's that.
And don't rush it. You are still very early on in recovery. Yeah, you're working on yourself, and that is the most important thing. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that, though.
No. I just want some intimacy and some cuddles. That's what I want.
Everyone does. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's been like a 2-year dry streak, okay? And the thing is that's intentional, but it needs to end now.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of which, how can people find you?
How's that for a transition?
No.
Wait, what'd you say?
Do you wish to remain completely anonymous, or do you want me to share a place people can talk to you?
I'm comfortable with sharing my Instagram.
All right, hit him.
So my Instagram is the Dunn, THEDUNN_. That's it.
Perfect.
That's me.
Thank you so much for doing this. I am just in awe of you.
Thank you for having me on.
I didn't
think I had the energy for this today, but once I got started, I was like,
same.
I'm not standing up, but I'm like in position. I don't even know what that means.
I mean, it's 11 p.m. here on my end, and I feel like no time has passed. I've just really enjoyed talking to you. So
it's 8:03. It's 8:04. Okay, conclusion. You're amazing, and I hope you keep pursuing your authentic self. And I'm just so happy to be your friend. Thank you, Christina. I really appreciate that.
Any last words before we say goodbye?
Spread your wings and fly, everyone.
And take your fucking meds.
Take your fucking meds. Right now. You know that TikTok guy that spits out his water and says, go to the fucking gym? Well, I need to start something that says, take your fucking meds.
On that note, goodbye.
Bye, everyone.